So yeah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We're in the middle of the story of the Caliph and the Bedouin from the Masnavi. We're going to go through the story as Mawlana takes us through the story. So it starts, Mawlana starts that there was a Caliph. Once upon a time, there was a Caliph who was so generous and so bounteous that everyone, Arabs, Persians, Greeks, Turks, everyone would go to his court and no one would come back empty-handed. And that Caliph, later on, we'll find out that symbolizes the divine bounty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And during this time, there lived a poor Bedouin and his wife. So, poor couple.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman starts complaining to her husband. We don't have anything. We are poor. At night, when we look at the moon, we think it's a loaf of bread. We want to catch that bread.
Mm-hmm.
Our blanket is moonlight. We don't have anything. So you should do something about this situation. And the husband says, poverty is my pride. Poverty is my pride. Look at the animals. They're all happy. They're all pleased with what they have, with their sustenance. That's what we should do. We should be happy with what we have. We should be content. And so Mawlana takes us through this argument, right? Argument between husband and wife. And the wife says, that's true, contentment is a virtue, but you're not there yet. That's not your level. You're pretending, you're pretentious, and that's hypocrisy. And so on. And then again, the man talks about the virtues of contentment and the virtues of poverty. And he says, those who need wealth, it's because they lack something and they want to make up for their deficiency. And it's like, if you're bald, you need a hat. If you have nice curly hair, you don't need a hat. So if you're sure of yourself and you have that strength, inner strength, reliance in Allah, you don't need wealth. And ultimately, this back and forth between the husband and the wife, the husband says, look, my path and your path are different. So if you insist on what you're insisting on right now, I'm going to go and I'm going to leave you. And that will be, we can't agree, then separation is the solution. And as soon as the woman hears that, she cries. She cries and she changes her approach. And she says, no, I'm sorry for what I said. It's all because of I care about you. That's why I care. I said all of these. It's because I care about you. But I'm pleased. I'm pleased with whatever you want. I'm as Mawlana says, as Rumi says, I'm your spinach. If you want to cook me in a sour broth, I'm happy. If you want to cook me in something sweet, I'm happy. I'm happy to be with you in bitter times and happy times, and good times and bad times. And she apologizes. And when she apologizes, the man's heart softens, right? The man's heart softens, and that's when Mawlana Rumi says, even if you're Rustam, even if you're greater than Hamza, you'll be your woman's captive, right? So he says, that's the love that changes the whole dynamic. And now it's the man, right? It's the man who apologizes to the woman. So in a sense, they're reconciled. And then later on, Rumi himself explains that this is symbolic again. So the woman represents the nafs, and the man represents the aql, right? And this reconciliation and this is what we need to integrate ourselves, basically. When the nafs is nafs radiyah, mardiyah is happy with the decree of aql, then the aql actually seeks to please the nafs, right? So then the reconciliation happens. So that's now it's the man who's going to apologize to the woman. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum, Ali John. How are you today?
Assalamu alaikum, Sina Jan. I'm well, alhamdulillah.
Okay, so yeah, let's inshallah start. So that's the new section, right? تسلیم کردن مرد خود را به آنچه التماس زن بود از طلب معیشت. So the man yielded to his wife's request. So now he's happy to do what his wife told him to do. Okay, Falak, would you mind reading the translation?
Okay, so the man became as sorry for that speech as at the hour of death a tyrannical officer for his tyranny. He said, "How did I become the adversary of the life of my soul? Jan, how did I bestow kicks on the head of my soul? When the destiny comes, it muffles the sight so that our intellect cannot distinguish foot from head. As soon as the destiny is past, it devours itself. Rending the veil, it tears its bosom. The man said, O wife, I am repenting. If I have been an infidel, I will become a Muslim. I am a sinner against you. Have mercy. Do not dig me up all at once from root and foundation. If the old infidel is repenting, he becomes a Muslim when he pleads for pardon. He is the merciful and bountiful Lord. Both existence and non-existence are in love with him. Infidelity and faith are lovers of that majesty. Both copper and silver are slaves to that elixir.
So yeah, now he apologizes to her, and Rumi says he became as sorry as a tyrant at the time of his death, at the hour of his death. And he said, how did I do that? How did I say such things to the John, to the soul of my soul, right? Mm-hmm. So this woman is the soul of his soul. And that's because destiny comes and muffled the sight, right? And then again, you know, and now they're seeing Allah in each other, right? So she sees Allah in him, and he sees Allah in her, right? So what she says, I'm repenting. It's outwardly it's the husband saying it to the wife, but in reality, it's again Mawlana talking to Allah. I'm repenting. I'm coming back, and all of us, all souls, right? Even if you know, throughout your whole life you've been kafir pir, an old infidel, right? Once you repent, you become a Muslim, and all your sins are washed away, right? چون که عذر آرد مسلمان میشود. He pleads for pardon. All those infidelity, all those transgressions are gone. Why? Because Allah Ta'ala, so everything in the story, Mawlana takes it back to Allah. Allah is the center, right? It takes us back to Allah. And then there are digressions, as we will see. But yes, Allah Ta'ala is the merciful and bountiful Lord. And everything is in love with Allah. Existence and non-existence. Copper and silver. Infidelity and faith. And then he's going to explain, in the next section, he's going to explain Musa and Pharaoh. Moses and Pharaoh, both of them were, in a sense, believers. In a sense, both of them were believers in Allah. So yeah, he's going to explain to us that everything longs for Allah. Yeah. Any thoughts, comments, reflections on this short section? Yes, Falaj.
At first, when you were starting to explain to me the story, I thought the man would be representing the soul, the ruh. But then only at the end, it like showed, like it made sense why it's the aql, not really the soul. He was just trying to, I think it's just, that's what happens to a lot of people who've been brought up in a quote unquote religious environment. We're brought up to believe and to know all these principles, but unfortunately some of us have not been able to, like, we've learned it in the mind but not really through the soul and in practice. So we think we are doing that, but then in at a time of a test or in real experience, we find out that we're not really applying it properly, and we're still on the path of learning day by day. So I think that's one of the I don't want to say call it a downside, but I mean, I don't know if you understand what I mean, but that's the problem with sometimes being brought up in a religious environment. If religion was being, especially the Sufism or like, you know, those type of environments, they tend to be taken for granted. Some principles just like, it's like we grow up, we've been fed this like the milk, like with the milk we've been nursing from our mothers. It's just that some of us didn't learn how to actually apply that in practice. So it really actually takes time to take it to heart and bring it down from the aql to actually the soul and the heart, and put it really in practice.
Absolutely. Yeah, realize it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, realization that we're not really applying it is the first really step, and then comes the actual like, because to acknowledge that, oh, I have not been applying this, I thought I did. That I think that's the first step, acknowledging that there's a problem, and then to actually want to, like, you know, be willing to look for a solution. That's something that I've like, you know, encountered with myself and in a lot of people, because I grew up in a what I would call in a Sufi family. And I found out later that all these things that we keep repeating over and over again, the quotes and the nasheed, the qasaid, the love and all that, we find out that we were not really practicing them. Really, we thought we did, but not real. It takes time. Time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. And you know, Mawlana himself, he says, "Mard mirasi nadanad qadr mal." If you've inherited, you know, wealth, you don't appreciate it. Sometimes, yeah, it's the case, and you know, it's true. You know, and also about Mawlana, there are a lot of people who, you know, learn Mawlana's poems in school, but they don't really understand what he's talking about, right? Whereas those who have really found, once you know, you can taste, then they open up to you.
Yeah, that's true. Just like people who've been born Muslims and people who converted to Islam or reverted to Islam. Same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Subhanallah. Okay, so yeah, if there are no other reflections, we could start the next section. So the next section is در بیان آنکه موسی و فرعون, Moses and Pharaoh, both of them, they're subject to the divine will. So both of them have a role in this divine play, in this grand scheme of things, right? Just like poison and antidote. There's poison and antidote. There are roses and there are thorns. They're together. Darkness and light. And how Pharaoh conversed in solitude with God, praying that he would not destroy his reputation. So yeah, let's inshallah read this section. Alijan, would you mind?
Yeah. Should I just read the English translation?
Just the English, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. So Moses and Pharaoh were servants of reality. Outwardly, their former keeps the way, while the latter has lost the way. In the daytime, Moses was lamenting to God. At midnight, Pharaoh would begin to weep, saying, "O God, what shackle is this on my neck? Were it not for the shackle, who would say, I am I? By that whereby you have made Moses to be illuminated, by that you have made me to be darkened. By that whereby you have made Moses face like the moon, you have made the moon of my soul to be black-faced. My star was not better than a moon, since it has suffered eclipse. What help have I? If they beat drums in my honor as Lord and Sultan, the moon is eclipsed, and the people beat bowls. They beat those bowls and raise a clamor. They put the moon to shame by their blows. I who am Pharaoh, oh, Woe is me because of the people. My title of my supreme Lord is the blows and the bow. We are fellow servants, but your axe is cleaving the sappy boughs in forest. Then it makes one bow to be fairly planted, another bow to be left and cared for. The bow has no power against the axe. No bow escape from the power of the axe. By the truth of the might which belongs to your axe, do you graciously make these crooked actions straight. Once more Pharaoh said to himself, Oh, wonderful! Am not I the whole night in our Lord? In secret, I am growing humble and harmonious. When I reach Moses, how am I becoming so different? The color of base gold is in 10 coats. How is it becoming black-faced in the presence of the fire? Is it not that my heart and body are under his control? At one moment he makes me a kernel, at another moment a rind. When he bids me to be a wheat field, I become green. When he bids me be ugly, I become yellow. At one moment he makes me a moon, at another black. How indeed is the action of God other than this? Before the bath of his decree, be and it was. We're running in space and beyond, since colorlessness became the captive of color. A Moses came into conflict with a Moses. When you attain unto the colorlessness which you possessed, Moses and Pharaoh are at peace. If it occurs to you to ask questions about this mystery, how should color be devoid of contradiction? The marvel is that this color arose from that which is colorless. How did color arise to war with the colorless? Inasmuch as oil has been formed from water, why have oil and water become opposites? Since the rose springs from the thorn, and the thorn from the rose, why are both of them at war and in recrimination? Or is this not war? Is it for purpose and artifice, like the bickering of those who sell asses? Or is this not war? Is it for purpose and artifice, like the bickering of those who sell asses? Or is it neither this nor that? Is it bewilderment? The treasure must be sought, and this is the ruin. That which you may imagine to be the treasure, through that vain imagination, you're losing the treasure. Know that fancies and opinions are like the state of cultivation. Treasure is not in cultivated spots. In the state of cultivation, there is existence and strife. The non-existent is ashamed of existent things. It is not the case that the existent implored help against non-existence. No, the non-existent repelled the existent. Do not say, I am fleeing from the non-existent. No, it is fleeing from you. Stop. Outwardly, it is calling you towards itself, but inwardly, it is driving you away with the cudgel of rejection. O man of sound heart, it is walking backwards. Know that the rebelliousness of Pharaoh was from Moses.
So let's have a closer look at this section. So Mawlana says, Musi o Fir'aun ma'ani ra rahi. Both Moses and Pharaoh were servants of the reality. They were both servants of the real, of al-haq, right? But outwardly, Musa follows the way, whereas Pharaoh was led astray, right? But then he says both of them actually prayed. But Musa, alayhi salam, he would pray in daytime, and Pharaoh at night. So what here Mawlana, what Mawlana means is everyone deep down, right? Deep down, they know the truth. They know what is true and what is false. They know what is wrong and what is the right thing to do. Everyone has that fitra inside them. But in the case of Pharaoh, it was covered. So at night, he would come to himself and he would say, yes, I do believe in Allah. I do believe in this, when he was with himself. But then daytime, when all those people would bow to him and they would all call him Lord and they would call him God, because of reputation, because of those people and his arrogance, he denied what was inside him. So otherwise, that seed of faith was there. It was just covered with layers of dust and rust and so on. So at night he would pray. He would say, what is this shackle on my neck? Why am I doing this? Why am I saying, who am I to say I am God? At night he would say that. And he would say, you've made Moses to be illumined, you've made me dark-faced. This was my star, just like the eclipse of the moon, right? So like a moon that has suffered eclipse. The moon is there, it's just been covered. And that's what happens to the fitra when it's covered. So these people who call me Lord and Sultan, these are my enemies. These are the ones who, my moon is eclipsed, and they beat. It was a tradition in Persia when there was a lunar eclipse, they would bang on pans. They would invert pans and pots, and they would just bang on them. Superstitious beliefs that the dragon had swallowed the moon and so on. He's saying these people, they're the ones who bring shame to me, and because of what they're calling me, right? They're calling me Lord, and they're calling me, and this is what is causing the arrogance. Man ke Pharaohnam ze shuhrat vay man. Woe is me because of the people. My title of Supreme Lord. That's the banging on the pans or the bowls, right? So yeah, he's saying both of us are your servants. It's just we have different roles in this play, right? And when I'm in secret, when I'm by myself, I'm humble, I'm harmonious. When I reach Moses, then I realize, then I act differently, and then it's realized that it's not true gold, right? It's counterfeit gold. Any thoughts on reflections on this first page, first part of this section? Yes, Falak.
Yes, subhanAllah, it shows like how dangerous fame is on nafs. It just makes the nafs bigger and bigger, and ego growing. It always said like it's always so well known, especially amongst all the mashayikh and the scholars. Fame is a very dangerous thing for the iman and the belief, because even Pharaoh, and at night and he's alone, he's he's a believer, yet among the people
exactly
can't stand it. Yes, Allah.
Exactly. Yeah, Mawlana has another story in the Masnavi. So there are a group of students who are lazy and who don't want to do homework, and they have a strict teacher. So they come up with a plan because they don't want to go to school. So they come up with a plan. So one of them says, when I meet the teacher, I will say, "Teacher, what's wrong? You look so pale today. You must be sick," and so on. And you guys, everyone else, please say the same thing. And when enough of us say the same thing, he will believe it. And they do the exact same thing, right? So the first student comes in and say, "Teacher, what's wrong? You look so pale today. Are you sure you're okay?" And then the second student comes in and says the same thing. Third student comes in and says the same thing. So that teacher, looks in the mirror and actually believes it. I'm sick. I'm sick. Goes back home. And goes back home and says, "Yeah, today the school is canceled. Just go home," and so on. And then Mawlana Rumi says, this is what the people did to Pharaoh, right?
Yes.
They all said to him, "You're God. You're the Lord. You're the master," and he believed it, right? Yes. So this is what the people did to Pharaoh. So yeah, that's what he's saying here. Woe of me because of the people, Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, he's saying my heart and my body are under his control, under Allah Ta'ala's control. And he's the one who, at one time, he makes me a kernel. At one moment, I can understand these deep things. At other times, post, superficial things, right? It's the skin. When he bids me be green, I will be green. When he bids me be ugly, I will be yellow, right? At one time, he makes me moon. At another time, he makes me black, right? We are just like balls being hit around by the spat of his decree. It's Allah Ta'ala's decree. چون بیرنگی, so these are really key verses and famous verses. چون که بیرنگی اسیر رنگ شد. When colorlessness became the captive of color, one Moses came into conflict with another Moses. When the colorless light becomes color. Now, colors contradict each other. If blue and red, they're opposites, right? They contradict each other. You can't have both. If you pick blue, you have limited yourself to blue. If you pick red, you've limited yourself to red. So that's what happens when you when colorlessness becomes the captive of color. You see one Moses, one person who is on the right path, is fighting with another person who is also on the right path. But because they have different colors, different identities, different different schools of thought, they fight each other because of that color, different colors. But once you reach that colorlessness, that fitra, right? Colors, that state, original state when there's no differentiation. When you reach that, then you realize that everything is Musi و فرعون دارن داشتی, Moses and Pharaoh even. Not even Moses and another Moses. Moses and Pharaoh are at peace because you realize that both of them have a role in this world. You know, if there was no Pharaoh, you wouldn't appreciate Moses. Moses is appreciated because you contrast it with Pharaoh. So both of them have a role in this story, in this universe. So once you attain to the colorlessness, you realize everything has a role and everything is at peace and harmony. Yes, Falak.
SubhanAllah, actually, a lot of so many thoughts just came up to me at listening to this. The first thought is, SubhanAllah, everything in this existence is all of dual polars, opposite polars, except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's the only one. But everything else is like two opposite polars. Even Musa and Pharaoh, Sayyidina Musa and Pharaoh was standing against each other. That's the one point. So when he goes out of the, when it's colorless, he like Sayyidina Musa and Pharaoh are at peace. They all, like everything is it's like a one silent. I'm thinking of it as the straight line when it comes, when you see it on the machine when somebody has passed away. Just everything's at peace. SubhanAllah. That's one thought. The other thing is, I've heard somewhere, I can't remember where, that as if, I don't know if that's with all due respect to Sayyidina Musa and everything, but that Pharaoh was as if he's the reflection of the evil, the bad side of him, the bad side. As in what I mean from the SubhanAllah, Sayyidina Musa, he's one of the Uli al-Azm of the min al-Rusul. He's the only Rasul who asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's like, Arini anzur ilayk. He's the only Rasul who asked to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he is the one who, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came back from Isra and Mi'raj, isn't it interpreted that narrated, when he came down with the 50 prayers, and then he met Sayyidina Musa on the way, and he's the one who's like, go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ask him to reduce it. So he's the only prophet. So subhanAllah, I don't know, it's like as if you get an idea of the type of personality Sayyidina Musa has. And then at the time when he's when he claimed to know everything, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends him Sayyidina al-Khadr to teach him. وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. So subhanAllah, that's why gives me that it's like as if Fir'aun at a time was as if he's the reflection of maybe his nafs, like a tendency or a nafs, like again with all the respect to Sayyidina Musa as a prophet, but I mean it's like as if there's a theme that's going on. I don't know if I'm able to explain it properly. It's just that subhanAllah, Sayyidina Musa, he is one of the tough prophets, and he's the one who stood up like, I want to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want to, like, there is something in him. And he's the one who fought, like he was fighting against Fir'aun, who claimed to be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I don't know if it makes sense. I don't know.
It does. Yeah, it does. So actually, so one of the things that Mawlana says, he says everything that's past is like shouldn't be mentioned, right? So when he talks about Musa and Pharaoh, he's not talking about the past. He's not talking about historical figures, right? He's talking about inside us.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he says. He says, Musa و فرعون در هستی توست. Moses and Pharaoh are inside you. باید این دو خصم را در خویش جست. You should seek both enemies in yourself.
Yes.
So yeah, when he's saying, when you reach that colorlessness, when you reach that state, then the Musa in you and the Pharaoh in you are at peace, right? You're integrated, right?
Yes.
You're one being. Yeah, exactly. But once you move to the direction of color, to the direction of individuality or individual identity, group identity, all these colors and we've created, then you're in conflict. You yourself, just within you, you will be 1,000 people. You'll be in conflict. You're not one. You're not totally integrated. Yeah.
And sorry, there's one last point I wanted to mention. When Mawlana just speaks that, I know like everything obviously falls under Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission to happen. But then when we say like like we don't want to be what's the word? As if accusing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of zulm, when we say that, okay, Fir'aun, like I know asahu bi-idhnihi, like he disobeyed him with his permission, but again, Fir'aun chose. It's not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destined him to that, because that's a huge, like, you know, conflict right there that's happening today and in the past. About this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like destined him to be a kafir or destined him. No, he chose. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a choice at every second of in our life. We choose at this point to do this and do this or else. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had حرم على نفسه الظلم فكيف ويأباه لعباده. He's not going to be destining us to something and then judge us and punish us for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So now Maulana's asking a question. In Ajab, kin rang as bi rang khast. All these colors, they came from the colorless. They all came from the colorless light. So how is it that color is at war with the colorless? How can it be? How can you be at war with Allah? How is it possible, right? And he gives several examples, right? How can you be at war with your origin? Right? If oil comes from water, how can oil be at war with water, right? How can a rose be at war with a thorn? They both come from each other. How can they be at war with each other? Or is and then he says, "Ya najangestin barayi hikmat has." Maybe or is this not war? Maybe it's an artifice, right? Just like people who used to sell donkeys, sometimes there was an artificial fight just to increase the price of the donkey, right? So maybe this conflict between Musa and Pharaoh is just to increase it's just for us to appreciate the truth, to see Musa and contrast with Pharaoh, and then increase the value of to see the value of faith. Maybe that's why. So maybe it's an artifice, just like the bickering of those who sell donkeys, asses. Or maybe neither this nor that. Maybe it's just bewilderment, hayrani. So this is key for Mawlana, right? So Mawlana is quite cautious not to create a system, like a philosophical system. So he always brings us back to bewilderment. So all these questions he asks, but he doesn't answer. He doesn't give an answer. He's just saying bewilderment. Because treasure is always found in the ruins. Treasures are not found in cultivated areas. They're found in ruins. So if you want to find the treasure of wisdom, you need to be in ruins. You need to stop pretending you know the answers. You need to be fine with questions that are unanswered and being bewildered. So, آنچه تو گنجش توهم میکنی, what you imagine to be the treasure, when you imagine that you found the truth, you know all the answers, that's when you're losing the treasure. When you think you found the treasure, that's when you're losing your treasure. چون امارت دان تو وهم و رایها, all these philosophical opinions and doctrines and systems, they're cultivation, they're cultivated areas. But treasures are always found in ruins, not in cultivated areas. در امارت هستی و جنگی بود. In cultivated areas, there's existence. So existence here is negative existence. It means individual existence. نیست را از هست ها ننگی بود. And the non-existent, so the non-existent is the one who is fana in Allah. The non-existent is ashamed of these existence, right? Of these hast ha, of those who are individual in their limited existence. نی که هست از نیستی فریاد کرد. Don't think that these people who are self-centered, you might say existent, right, self-absorbed, don't think that they are the ones who are rebelling against the non-existent, against those who are fana in Allah, right? No, it's the other way around. Those who are fana repel the existent. They push them away inwardly. So there's a story about this. They say that they say to Mawlana, why is it that the amirs and the sultans, they go to visit other shuyukh in the city, they go to visit other masters and shuyukh, and they don't come to see you? Are they blind? They don't see this your spiritual rank? Why is it that they are not coming? And he says, you think that it's you see that they're not coming, but you don't see that I am pushing them away. I'm repelling them, right? So the non-existent repels the existent, right? Those who are fana in Allah, they repel those who are self-centered and self-absorbed. Inwardly, it's so. Outwardly, yeah, they call everyone. Outwardly, they say everyone is welcome, right? But inwardly, because similar things attract each other. These similar things repel each other, right? So inwardly, they repel them. So to magu ke man gorizanam zenist. Don't say I'm fleeing from them. No, they're fleeing from you. You think you're fleeing from them, but they're repelling you. ظاهراً می‌خواندت او سوی خود. Outwardly, yes, he's calling you towards itself or towards himself. But inwardly, it's driving you away, or he's driving you away. نعلهای باژگونه است ای سلیم، نفرت فرعون میدان از کلیم. So this is the Persian is نعلهای باژگونه. It's like some people used to, na'l is the horseshoe, so they used to nail the horseshoes backwards, so to mislead people, right? So he's saying, yeah, outwardly it's Pharaoh who rebelled against Musa, right? But actually, it was Musa who repelled Pharaoh, right? It was Musa who, his message and his reality drove people like Pharaoh away. So inwardly, it was the other way around. It was Musa who was driving Pharaoh away. So nefrat Pharaoh midan as kalim. It's the rebelliousness of Pharaoh was from Moses, right? So it's another perspective, right? Another way to look at things. Any thoughts on reflections on this section? Okay, so yeah, I guess we could read the next section next week and then move to Divan Shams.